Hello, it's Real Dog Speaks here, back with another video. I hope you're doing alright. To be honest, it's a pretty dark day, and you'll probably know what I'm talking about. It seems as though Russia has finally decided, or Putin has decided, to go for the invasion into Ukraine and is currently shelling and airstriking close to and around the capital city of Kiev. And the build up to this has been ongoing. He has he's built up about 70,000 odd troops around the borders of Ukraine, obviously planning for some kind of attack in some way. And Western countries, the EU member states have tried to impose sanctions, tried diplomacy, tried speaking, saying don't do this, pull back, but that obviously hasn't worked. And Russian troops are now well into Ukrainian territory, sadly, and it's quite a dangerous time because we've not really seen anything like this scale of attack in Europe really since World War II, if you discount other sort of civil wars and things like that. So it is quite a scary time. And I think, to be honest, in my opinion, what this really shows is just an absolutely massive failure of statecraft by the West. So, EU countries, the UK especially, United States, to, stand up against Putin on several opportunities over the past decade or so, to tell this, dictator in Russia, just to tell him, no, you can't be doing this, you've crossed this red line and we're going to punish you. If you ever think about, stepping into this territory again, we are going to punish you so hard and the consequences will be so severe and so dire that you won't ever want to think about doing it again. We haven't done that. On no occasion have we done that at all. The punitive sanctions have been quite minimal as of to this point, and I think what it shows is Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has been, this has been a long game for him. This has been a real long game to try and test what the West is capable of, how we react to things, how are we gonna defend ourselves, how are we going to defend other countries, what are we going to do in regard to diplomacy and alliances, things like that. And I think the West has been quite cowed, actually. It's been quite cowed by Russia in that it's just been so nervous to do anything massive and to make a real difference to Russia's power, that Putin feels so emboldened to be able to now take this big step and decide, yes, I'm going to bring troops directly into a sovereign nation and commit an unprovoked attack against its people, because that's what's happened. It is an unprovoked, completely unprovoked attack and incursion into a sovereign state that is not his own. And that is pretty much, ladies and gents, that is pretty much a declaration of war. And that's bold. That's fucking bold. And we all know what this guy is like. And he at this point, he's just gone absolutely bonkers with this notion that Russia has been deprived of its empire since the Soviet Union was disbanded in the at the end of the Second World War. He feels like he needs those countries back. He needs the Ukraine back. He needs Estonia back. He needs Latvia back. He needs Belarus back. He needs to have, the vast expanse of what the USSR was in the days when you had the Iron Curtain across the whole of Eastern Europe and the Baltics and the Balkans and the Eastern Bloc, when that was a humongous nuclear power. And, in many ways, Russia still is nuclear power. But when Russia had its empire, and Putin just pines for the days where he can have those countries back and for those countries to join the fold of Mother Russia. That's what he wants. And those are, that's an ideological, crazed notion that is no longer, it's in history, it's in the past. But Putin in his megalomaniac dictator state believes that Russia is owed, this land. I think he's just mental. Like he's just drunk on power, and he just wants more. And the West really needs to, I don't know what, we need to pull our bloody socks up, because what we're doing at the moment, I mean it's a start, but we really need to crack some skulls now and really show what we're made of, if we're made of anything at all, because Ukraine needs support, and other NATO countries that border Russia need our support as well. And we need to stand up to him, and we need to say, no, you cannot come any further. You cannot invade. But I don't know, what's the West going to do? I know that the Ukrainian people are going to fight, because this is their country and it belongs to them, and they're a democratic state, and they're going to really dig their heels in and fight to the death to try and stop this invasion from taking their homes, taking their livelihoods. They don't want that. They don't want to be invaded. They're Ukrainian. They don't see themselves as Russian. In many, many cases, they're Ukrainians and they're not Russians. Some people, in the border villages probably, they speak Russian and they probably feel Russian. But in Ukraine, at least, there's many people that see themselves as Ukrainians and, part of Europe and not part of what Russia is. So they're going to fight, and they're going to dig in and, hopefully give the Russians a real hard time. Because if Putin takes the whole of Ukraine and doesn't stop there and carries on, encroaching into other nation states, then that's when it gets really dangerous. And I'm really quite worried about where that will lead, because that's nuclear war territory. That when he gets to other NATO state countries and starts moving on other borders and other sovereign states, that's when it gets serious time. And I don't think we've been in this situation since the end of the Second World War, and that's saying something. And we should be quite nervous, because we've got a madman in the East, and he's not going to stop. He's not going to give in. He's not going to agree to pull back. He's got a full-on end game, and we need to stop him in his tracks if we've got any backbone at all. And it's a shame, because the UK hasn't been able to really have much of an impact due to many factors, Brexit being one big one. Destabilised the entire EU structure by taking us away from, a solid, safe economic group that could have had much more clout had the UK still been involved. And also the massive amount of Russian money that is swilling around the City of London and also being donated to the Tory party, millions upon millions of Russian rubles just absolutely swamped in the city and by and taken in by Conservatives. And that's corruption, folks. That's corruption. And we've allowed that to happen. We've allowed Russian money to enter our country, to launder it, to wash it, to keep it clean, because it's pretty dodgy stuff. And we've allowed that to happen. We've allowed that to happen. Oh yes, there's a bloody mate of Putin's. We decided to put him in the House of Lords, for God's sake. I mean, what the fuck? Jesus Christ. I mean, it's a betrayal of this country. You're basically saying, oh yeah, let's be best mates. Putin murdered on UK soil in Salisbury a few years ago, and sanctions were pretty minimal, and the people that committed it were never caught and never arrested. I mean, you might as well just get into bed with Putin. You may as well. It's mad, folks. It's really mad. And it's a really worrying time for the world, actually. And we should be quite concerned for what happens next, because this has been, like I said, this has been a really long game, and Putin's been testing us big time, and he's seen that, we're capable of failing on a massive scale, and he's decided to, take the plunge and test us to the real limit and see if he can win, because it at the moment looks like that he can, but we have to show him that, this is as far as you go, because this cannot be allowed, and Putin cannot be allowed to remain in the Kremlin with this sort of mentality. It's just mental and dangerous, and the man needs to be taken out. Let me know, guys, what you think in the comments. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. Please don't forget to click the like button and also subscribe, and I will see you soon in another video. Cheerio.